How's everyone doing? Welcome to episode 5 of Driven2Change. I'm here with Eddie Anders, a former basketball player at the University of Otterbein and a music producer. Spotify is called Beautiful Beats, 600K listeners a month, and doing pretty successful work on the music producing side. So, Eddie, my first question to you is, when's the first time you really had a good laugh? Maybe it could have been with your buddies or, making music.
I like to laugh a lot. I was actually laughing yesterday a lot with a artist friend of mine named Landon. I don't know if it's appropriate to share, but I was laughing. So I know that.
All good.
Yeah,
Hey, it's not much sensory here on Driven2Change, but
it was funny stuff. I'll leave it at that. But it was
okay,
good. So
that's
yeah,
fair.
I try to laugh whenever I can, man. I think it's healthy too. So I like that you start with that question. That's a good question, man.
Well, first I want to get into the basketball side of things. Obviously you played at Otterbein University. What made you, fall in love with basketball? And how did that journey start?
I think what made me fall in love with basketball was honestly just like shooting basketball, like shooting a basketball to begin with. That's really why I think I fell in love with it. I think that's why I played it. I think that's why I still play it. Everything else about the game was kind of like a second fiddle to that. So, honestly, I really just like enjoyed shooting outside in my, you know, driveway with my dad, all that stuff. So, I think that's truly where the love came from was whatever amount of dopamine I would get from just, shooting threes or shooting the basketball, to be honest.
What made you pick Otterbein, and how was that recruiting process in high school? What made you fall in love with Otterbein and ultimately make you end up making that decision to go there?
Yeah, man, I wasn't anything special in high school. I could shoot a little bit, but honestly, I saw Otterbein as like I might have had a little opportunity to play there. I thought about a couple other schools, but I remember having like a conversation with one of my teachers in high school, and I was like really confused on where I wanted to go, and he was like, "Are you gonna play?" And I was like, "Well, probably not at this other school." And then he was like, "Okay, well, why don't you go where you're gonna play?" And I was like, "Well, that's probably Otterbein." So, but on top of that, it was close to my parents. I like being close to my family. It's only like, 20 minutes away from my family. So it was great, man. I felt at home. I liked some of the other guys that were coming into my class with me. So it was kind of like a no-brainer when it was all said and done. It kind of just made itself known to me that that's where I should be. So yeah, that's kind of what it was.
Cool. What were some of your most memorable moments while playing at Otterbein? Could have been playing or off the court.
Yeah,
But
man. Well, we were terrible my freshman year. We went 1-24. We only won one game, so that's hard to erase from the memory. So for truly talking memory, that was probably pretty memorable, just being on a team that was, truly just that bad. But there was even as bad as that was, it's like the most fun season to look back at and be like,
right,
wow, like we were really that shitty. You know what I mean?
right.
But other than that, like, I don't think we ever had any incredibly great teams. I think probably the biggest win we had was after my freshman year. We got beat by 60 at Carroll, at John Carroll, my freshman year. Okay.
That's a team. Yeah,
Yeah.
Carroll was tough, man.
Yeah. So, right, we got beat by 60. Like, we probably should have. But then the next year, my sophomore year, we beat them at their place. So that was quite the turnaround. So that was a big win for us and for team morale. The best memories are honestly just like, chilling in the apartment, playing poker in the apartment.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I
So
remember
that
those poker nights. When you were graduated and
yeah, yeah, the poker nights were so good, man. I had to come back for them. I was just, but it was fun, man. It was a great experience. I really have nothing negative to say about Otterbein other than the food. So if
right.
that's if that's my biggest complaint, it's probably a pretty good place. So
The
yeah.
CC, yeah. When you were playing, did you have any, mental health struggles, maybe performance anxiety, the pressure of being a college athlete? If you did, if you want to talk about some of those struggles and
Yeah.
how you handled those.
I always really wanted to be good. Like I really worked, pretty hard, especially my freshman and sophomore year. I really wanted to be a good player. And as a shooter, I was a pretty one-dimensional player. So if that wasn't going to plan, if I
Right.
wasn't really shooting it well, it was really tough for me, to get in rhythm and to have confidence. So I think I would really have these really good highs and really big lows, especially like early on in my career. And as I got later in my career, I didn't play as much, which, that's how it goes. There were a lot of better players that were just younger than me. But yeah, I mean, I think early on, I really just struggled with like shot selection. I wanted to be good. And, if shots aren't falling, how I didn't really know how to handle that adversity. I think I wanted it so bad that I almost like was being harmful to myself,
Right.
like mentally. I was just like, I wanted to make shots so bad that it was almost like I wasn't even calm enough to even be in that, you know, mindset to make shots.
Exactly.
Now when I'm playing like at the rec center or
Mhm.
pickup, I'm in just like this state of I really don't give a fuck if it goes
Right.
in or not. And then I probably shoot the best I ever have in my life just because I'm just so relaxed. So if I could go back to my younger self, it would be just to remind myself, one, hey, we're playing Division 3 basketball. It's important to us, but it's okay. Like, you know what I mean? You don't
Right.
have to be excellent all the time, and missing shots is a part of the game. So I think that's where I struggled mentally on it within basketball, was just putting a lot of pressure on myself. I think that's what I chalk it up to.
How was your transition kind of out of college athletics to ultimately being a music producer? Um, and were you doing that while you were playing? Were you just messing around with beats and seeing
Yeah. Yeah.
how
Yeah.
how far you could really go with the, music producing?
I started making beats like a little bit into my senior year of high school, maybe like the summer going into my freshman year. I was terrible at it. I didn't really know what I was doing. Like anybody just started anything, I was just kind of learning. So I was super insecure about it. If we want to talk a little like mentally, like
Right. Yeah.
I was very insecure. I didn't want anyone to know I was making music. I didn't tell anybody I was making music for my entire 4 years I was at Otterbein, even though I was, doing it every day. So I started like the Instagram page, Beautiful Beats, my freshman year. Um, I was uploading random stuff to it, just seeing what it was, because I finally had this epiphany of like, if I'm going to be making music, it has to go somewhere. You know what I mean? I can't just have my headphones in Davis Hall and expect anybody to hear it, especially if I'm not telling anybody that I
Right.
know. Yeah, I didn't tell anybody for 4 years, but I uploaded consistently while I was out of school or while I was in school. So by the time I got to my senior year, I had like a decent following on Instagram and was making some money. Really wasn't much money at all. Like I couldn't actually live off my money yet that I was making from music, but it was decent. It was a job. So um, when I graduated, I was like, okay. I sat down with my parents and I was like, I want a full year to really like go at this.
Hmm.
Um, so that's what I did full time. I was a full time producer living in my parents' basement. And over the course of that year, my revenue really started to increase, and I was making a good enough amount of money to where it was like, hey, there's something here. This is a viable option. You know, Eddie doesn't need to go get another job,
Right.
basically. But yeah, I was extremely insecure about it. So, but I was doing it while I was at Otterbein. Yeah.
How was that process like overcoming being insecure about it and ultimately letting people know, hey, I'm making music and I'm
Yeah.
putting stuff out here. What was that process kind of like getting over that hump?
Yeah. It was really interesting, man. I'd be working on stuff, like I'd be making music and then I'd go to practice. Practice was very much so like real life, right? I was like, this is my real life. I am a student here at this university and I'm playing basketball. This is real life. And whenever I was at practice for whatever reason, it really made what I was doing with music feel extremely small and almost like I was a fraud almost. It was like that isn't really a real thing. As I kind of grew and as I kind of like had some cool things happen within the space and had some cool opportunities, my confidence just grew. And I also found out that like it was almost a blessing that I really wasn't telling anybody, because at the end of the day, I think some of my friends care, and like, but I can't expect everybody I know to truly be a fan of like music production. Like
Right.
at the end of the day, the odds of my 20 friends at Otterbein actually being fans of, one, my music, two, music production in general, like they probably don't care, which is fine. Like I got no hate towards that. That's just them. So it was really nice for me to build something that was completely organic, and I wasn't trying to make my friends my fans. I was actually building a real fan base that was, actual people wanting to follow me for it. But at the end of the day, man, it was just like getting over the thought that like, hey, one, at this point, most people might actually probably think it's pretty cool. They'll be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, hey, that's neat." I still get a lot of people that don't know what the hell I'm doing, and that's fine. A lot of parents are like, "Oh, so are you a DJ?" Like, they don't really
Right.
know, which is fine. But at the end of the day, yeah, it just the more I told people and the more I was just like confident about it, one, I realized most people don't really care, and two, some people are supportive of it. So, um, it was tough. It was like I wish I could explain the feeling of when, like, if somebody, like, found out about it and I didn't want them to know, man, it was like a crippling, like, fear, man. It really
Right.
was, and I was just embarrassed. I had been, known as a basketball player and an athlete my whole life, so, doing something that was, like, music related, it was weird for me, but I guess just getting over it was just finally telling people and being like, "Hey, this is it," and I think the confidence that I built up helped a lot, over
Right.
the years.
I could, I mean, relate to you on that aspect. When I first put out the article, going through my mental health struggles,
Yeah.
right before the account posted it, I was like on the fence about it
It's
after I
scary.
wrote it. I
Yeah,
mean, I can connect with you with that. Like, it's a scary feeling to put stuff out there and have
yeah.
the whole world see it, technically.
I think it's really tough. It's just tough to let people into, like, your world, I think. I think that's what's tough, especially, you know, for you, a mental health thing, and for me, a very, like, delicate and creative, you know,
Mhm.
thing. It's especially as, like, an athlete male, it's probably seen as, like, soft or, like, corny, you know what I mean?
Right,
So I think it's probably all in our own heads that we're worried about it, but yeah, it's like I think letting people into your world can be tough, no matter what it is,
right.
but yeah.
So obviously you've kind of blown up on, Instagram and YouTube and Spotify. What has that been like, from starting out making beats in a college dorm to now working with artists and other producers and getting a lot of views doing it? If you could share a little bit of that.
Yeah, I say this all the time, man. I'm continually surprised at the opportunities that come my way. Um, and it's literally just come from doing the same shit that I was doing when I was uploading videos in my dorm room.
Mhm.
Seriously. It was just make what I want to make, put it out there, let the world respond to it, and whatever comes from it comes from it. But yeah, it's been awesome, and I can't deny that it's a lot of fun. Sometimes I think I take it for granted, but I try to be as grateful as I can, knowing that myself 8 7 7 8 years ago, like this is all I wanted to be doing. That's
Right.
this is so it's been awesome. That's all I could say. It's been great. It's a gift from God for sure.
Um, yeah, I mean, I give you a lot of credit for doing it.
Thank
I watch a lot of stuff and it's good music. It's great stuff.
thank you.
Got some good lessons in some of your videos. So keep doing that. When you're producing, obviously, it's a big industry, producing and music. Have you ever faced creative blocks and how do you manage them if, you know, you're struggling putting out products?
Yeah, 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 man. I say this all the time, and I creativity is I think it's a gift from God, but also I think you have to like your creative brain is kind of like a muscle.
Hmm.
I think there's some days where I gotta lock myself in this room and like, come on, let's get this video done, or let's work on this song. But then other days it's like, hey, I had some shit happen. I don't got nothing going on here up
Right.
here to do it. I gotta let it rest and I gotta let it breathe. So it can be really challenging when there's this kind of standard I've put up for myself of releasing a lot of music consistently or putting out a lot of content consistently, to where it's kind of tug and pull of should I force something out today or should I, quality over quantity? So for me, the creative blocks is just when they come, just taking them in, understanding that it happens, um, and then just kind of, I don't want to say wait it out, but I guess that's kind of it. It's just knowing that I've been here before. It's, you know what it is?
Right.
It's really no different than missing shots, you know,
Right.
in basketball. It's like, hey, I know I can shoot it. I
Hmm.
know I can make good music. Not happening right now, but you know, I can't be perfect. So I think honestly that's where sports has helped me a lot, is knowing that there's ups and downs with everything. So
Right.
yeah, I just try to let it breathe and not overreact to it is the answer to your question. Yeah.
Exactly. So that was going to be my next question. Do you have any like mental health strategies or people you go to when you're in these blocks or you're in these times where you're like, "Oh, I can't put this out here, or I'm struggling to make music right now," or
Honestly, I go to therapies. I go to therapy, but it's very rarely is it work related.
Mhm.
Um, I think I think I handle the work stuff pretty good on my own. I think it's outside of the outside stuff in my
Right.
life that I truly think I go to therapy for. But um, no, I think sometimes getting in a room with somebody, you know, like a creative artist or, you know, reaching out to somebody, I think collaboration can really help. Um, you know, I don't think it's so much of like a, hey, I'm really struggling creatively. It's like, hey, you're really good at guitar and I'm not that great. Send
Right.
me some stuff and then maybe I can make something happen. And then also sometimes just like a little bit of validation from somebody. Like I'll just send someone some stuff and they'll be like, wow, that's really good. And I'll be like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I thought it was shit. You know, you thought it was good. Great. Like, you know, a little bit of confidence boost here and there too. So yeah, that's kind of how I go about it.
So I was watching your YouTube series when make beats on the spot and then you'll send it to not as well as a known artist.
Yeah.
How do you think you're helping these artists grow, especially with your platform, um, and helping them out?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a big misconception that, you know, I do work with some bigger artists,
Right.
some are the bigger artists in the world, honestly. But I think it's a big misconception that, you know, sometimes working with the biggest people in the music industry is not always
Right.
great. Um, you know, you're kind of a small fish in a big pond or whatever people call it, and you can kind of get overlooked. You know, payments don't come in on time. You got to make sure all your ducks are in a row. You know, you got to make sure the contracts are right. And I've really found a love for working with talented artists that are independent. Not only is there a lot of opportunity to on the money side to make a good amount of money independently, but you know, it's just way easier. You know, talk about a nice relax on the mental is if I'm working with one of my buddies and I know inside and out we both have each other's best interest, you know, it makes things real easy. So I think I help them in a lot of ways. I don't charge the people that I work with like directly on an everyday basis. I don't charge them for studio time.
Mhm.
I don't charge them for beats. I don't charge them for mixing and mastering. So I mitigate and I take away a lot of that upfront cost for them because some of them just, you know, they're not massive artists. They don't have a ton of money to be spending on music, but they have talent. So I'll take a little bit more percentage of the song, but I think that really helps making I help them make content. So I think I've loved working with people independently. So I think that's where I kind of help them to answer your question is mitigate a lot of that upfront cost because there's really nobody like that in the
Right.
music. And if you want to go to some studio somewhere, they're going to charge you, you know, $100 an hour for studio time. Then you got to pay to mix it. Then you got to. So I try to mitigate some of that cost for the artists that I work with.
Right. Shifting gears a little bit, obviously music for a lot of people is very therapeutic.
Yeah.
How do you think you as a producer um, achieves that when your fans are listening to your music? And do you think it helps them get through some
Yeah.
tough times? Or if you
I
could talk
think
about that a little bit.
yeah. No, yeah. I think something beautiful about really anything is like if I'm going through something, odds are somebody else is. So if I write a lyric in a song, it could like mean 20 different things to 20 different people and they could resonate it with it in some way.
Right.
You know, that's no different than a podcast, like someone talking about something in a podcast. I think we connect in as humans because we all like are the same. Like we all not we're not all the same, but like we're all going through something. So we're
Right.
similar in that way. So I think I've had people tell me that, you know, my videos have saved their life. Like a couple people have told me that they because they saw this, they thought they could keep going. When I'm making it, I'm not that's not my thought. I'm
Right.
not thinking, wow, this song's really gonna help some kid in Switzerland who's listening to it. I don't know. But I think that's what's beautiful about being human and what you're doing, right? We're putting it out into the world, how we're feeling, what we're going through, maybe how we're dealing with it. And that's all somebody might need to hear, you know? So I don't do it intentionally, but I've had messages that say, you know, it's helped me, it's helped people. So um, I'm glad it does, but I hope that answers your question. So I just kind of make what I feel and hope people out there feel the same thing, I guess is what I would say.
No, that's I mean, I can agree with you there too. I've
Yeah.
had people DM me and message me saying that, "Dude, you really helped me," and it's a good feeling, but when you're making these, you don't realize it, so that's a good point right there.
Yeah.
You don't realize it at all.
Nope.
Are there any producers or musicians that you know, take a lot of, inspiration from, and how do you incorporate it in your music?
Yeah. When I first started, there was this guy, he was like one of the first people on YouTube making beats. His name was Pat Ryan. He doesn't even do it anymore, but like one of my buddies sent me his videos and he was like, wow, look at this guy making music. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's what I want to do. I'm going to do that. So he was somebody that like was like showed that you could make music and be on social media and kind of get the both best of both worlds. So that was somebody early on. But as far as musicians, there's so many talented people. I really like John Mayer. I don't make music like John Mayer at all, but I
Right.
just like John Mayer. I think he's cool. I think John Bellion is one of the most talented producers in the entire world. I like Fred again. As from a, like a producer perspective, I think Fred is really talented. There's a lot of people, but I don't know if I'm like always looking at what somebody is doing and trying to implement it maybe every once in a while, but
Right.
um I kind of just I think all the stuff I've just like taken in over the years, all the music, it just that's what comes out and is my original stuff. But
Mhm.
there's all sorts of people, man. I could probably go on for hours,
Go
but yeah,
down the line.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's a lot of people, but yeah, that would be my answer. Yeah.
Cool. So obviously, beautiful beats. Um, again, like I said, it's taken off. What is your goal? Because your career is still really young. What is your goal, the end goal of beautiful beats, and what do you want to achieve out of this?
Yeah, my goal, I tell everyone this, in 10 years, I want to be able to throw my phone in a drawer. I want to be with my wife and kids. I'll still maybe go to a studio every once in a while, work with some talented people, make some music. I don't really want to be on social media, um, and just make money off like song royalties, and maybe do some other business ventures outside of music. But truthfully, I just want to spend time with my family. If I have kids, my kids, and throw my phone away and
Right.
really let go of the internet, if I'm being honest. So that's kind of my ultimate goal, to put out a ton of great music uh for the next 10 years and just enjoy my life with my family, truthfully, is my actual goal.
That's
Yeah.
that's a good goal right there. Get off social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
That's probably the best part right there.
Yeah,
So
honestly.
it's a killer, man.
Right.
Uh, Wrapping it up here a little bit. What advice do you have for maybe young kids or aspiring musicians or athletes? It could be either or. Um, what advice would you give to them, whether it was a situation like yours where they're scared to, you know, take a leap and
Mhm.
put stuff out in the world, or, you know, anything like that?
Yeah,
What advice would you give to them?
there's a couple cliche things I could say, but I think are still true, which is, yeah, if you truly want to do something, you are going to have to face some fear, and you're going to have to take the leap, kind of like you said, and just get it out there. If you need to keep it to yourself, like I did, I don't want anyone to think that me keeping it a secret was, the wrong thing to do.
Right.
If you want to keep something to yourself, keep it to yourself. If you go about it how you want, there really is no right or wrong way.
Hmm.
Um, I would say do whatever you're going to do consistently. I uploaded a video on Instagram for like 3 years straight, every single day, and that's not an exaggeration, that's no exception. Christmas, my birthday, you name it. So whatever you're doing, do it consistently. And the last thing I would say is I heard a great quote. I think I was listening to JJ Redick's podcast and Paul George was on it, or maybe Tobias Harris like a long time ago. And he said, live in the gray. And you're not in the black, you're not in the white. Live in the gray. You live like just, I don't know, as level headed as you can.
Right.
Because when shit gets great, it could be great and then it can go south real fast. And when, shit's bad, you don't know when it could turn around. So that's honestly what I'm trying to do is live in the gray. If I have a great day, hey, nice. Let's see what tomorrow brings. I'm not saying you can never feel happy for yourself or never be upset, but understand that life's going to throw a lot at you. So
Right. Don't let your highs get too high and your lows get too.
yeah, I think that's really big, man. Because then I think that makes everything else easier. I think that makes being consistent, a lot easier too. If I think I'm the shit, it's probably a lot harder to wake up in the morning and get after it. If I'm feeling like shit, it's probably harder to get wake up the next morning. But if I'm like, hey, we're doing pretty good. I think we know, we're not great, we're not bad, but we need to continue to maintain where we're at and, continue to be consistent. I think living in the gray helps it be a little bit easier.
I like that. I like that point right there. That's something I live by. Don't let your highs get too high.
Yeah.
Get too low. Take it one day at a time. So I agree with you there. Last thing I got for you: NBA Finals, Mavs,
Yeah.
Celtics. I need
Yes.
predictions for that.
Man, I really don't like Boston. I really don't. Um, yeah, I don't like Boston. Me, Braden and Martin are really big on the Mavs.
I
We want
know
the Mavs to win so bad.
that was my
Um,
course before the playoffs. I said I wouldn't be surprised if they made it to the finals. Man, they're good.
I love them. I think Boston's the better team. I think Boston is way better, especially if they get Porzingis back. It's going to be tough, but I love Luka. I never liked Kyrie, but I like him on the Mavs. So, I'm juiced for it, dude. I love the NBA. I like worship the NBA. So I
Over
mean,
college basketball?
yeah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's hard for me to watch college basketball. I struggle watching college basketball. I don't like it as much. I used to love it. I used to love it, but now it's weird for me because
They're basically pros now too, with all that stuff
well,
going.
they're also all these kids are like, I mean, a lot of NBA guys are younger than me too, even though I'm 25, but like
Oh yeah, that is true.
I feel like I'm just watching like a kid now. Whereas when I was younger, like I'm like, wow, these guys are like so good at college. I still like college basketball, but I like watching the best players in the world. I love dudes that are super skilled. Doesn't matter what deep, there's always like two guys on a college basketball floor. Like they're only out there to set
Right.
plays. Like, you know what I mean? So I I really love the NBA. So yeah, I'll take it over college hoops. Yeah.
I got Mavs with you, so hopefully that brings us some money.
I know. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Hopefully that brings us some money. Alrighty. Eddie, any final words? If you want to plug anything, you're more than welcome to. Plug
Good.
your social media. You don't want to plug your social medias?
I mean, if you just type in beautiful beats, if I don't pop up, that's my fault. So
I'll plug them all in the bio. But Eddie, I appreciate you coming on.
yes, sir, man.
It
Keep
means
doing
a
your
lot.
thing.
It means a lot. And thank you to everyone who's watching. I appreciate it. And remember, life is grand. Thank you.
Always.